Now let's dive right into our very first conversation for this morning, and it has to do with Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. They're talking about sustaining security. I mean, we know that the Nigerian economy is built on crude, and pipeline vandalism, oil theft, these are two major enemies to our production. Now, Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited is one of on the front line of national asset protection companies in Nigeria. They've been saddled with the huge responsibility of protecting Trans-Niger pipeline that cuts across rivers Abia, Imo, and Bayelsa. So let's talk about what Pipeline is doing. That's Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, what they're doing with this, with the secretary, you just saw him on the screen, Secretary General of Niger Delta Intelligence Team, Mr. Nse Udo. Mr. Udo, good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning to you. It's a pleasure being here.
So it's no longer news that pipeline vandalism is a major problem for us here in the country. But we know that your company, or the company you represent this morning, has been working to curb this. We had a conversation on this late last year. Tell us what's new that you're doing.
I am not from Pipeline Infrastructure. I don't speak for them. I don't hold brief for them. I'm from the Niger Delta Intelligential Team, and the invite to me indicates that I will be speaking to the issues relating surveillance in the Niger Delta. So if you ask me direct question, what is the pipeline infrastructure doing, I may not be able to respond in that direction clearly.
Okay, so but can you tell us if you think Nigeria is on the right track to win the war against pipeline vandalism?
Yes. I can say categorically that in the last few months and about a year now, there seems to be a major watershed in the approach and strategy of getting the issues of pipeline vandalism being curtailed and improving oil production, which is evidence in the statistical availability to everyone. But when you say winning the war, I think it's rather right to say the battle has been won. Though I'm not a military personnel, but I know that today is the Armed Forces Remembrance Day. So when you say the war has been won against pipeline vandalism, that means everything has been brought totally down. But I think there's a significant reduction in issues relating to vandalism, significant reduction in issues relating to incidences, and that is evidence in the number of reports we see on screen, and also evidence in how much thick smoke we see in the skies of our community. And I think that there's a major watershed in the pipeline surveillance related issues, because it seems that of late there's a large-scale expansion in community inclusivity in how these issues are being managed. And I think that inclusivity of our communities have resulted in what we now have as a significant reduction in the incidences of pipeline vandalism. But I think that the battle has been won, but we have to sustain it so that it could become a war won.
In sustaining it, what strategy do you think should be maybe accelerated or emboldened? Is it the CSR, or is it more of the armed part of the war?
The armed part of the war has proven not to be effective. That is evidence in all the other paradigm approach that has been engaged. It's because the armed engagement did not work. That was why amnesty came. It's because the armed engagement did not work. That is why the ideology of a surveillance company integrating the communities to become part and parcel of the surveillance process. I think the AMP strategy will not work because it did not work before and cannot work now. What I think can work is a deliberate convergence, a deliberate strategy or innovative policy direction by the companies shouldered with the responsibility of protecting pipelines within the Niger Delta, and specifically, like you were trying to mention today, PNL. PNL is strategic, specifically on the Trans-Niger pipeline. What I think they should do to sustain this is to expand the community engagement structure that they have. That's one. Then two, the seemingly CRS, that's a community corporate social responsibility introduction that has become a little bit very, very significant, unlike what was before, should be capitalized on and then reach out more, because the whole truth is that the issues leading to pipeline vandalism or any other action within the Niger Delta that has negatively impacted the environment, oil production, and the revenue of the Republic has been as a consequence of the failure of proper integration of the people, and then an organized mistrust from us as the people with those who are major players in the oil sector. I think if this mistrust has been successfully broken by integrating members of the communities to become part and parcel of the protection process, it will be more effective and it will work more efficiently than the use of arms.
Yeah, so I hear you say localizing contracts, and I wonder, do the states have the skills, the personnel to handle it if the contracts are localized?
It is currently being localized because the companies that are providing surveillance services and pipeline protection are local companies. They are mostly pan-Niger Delta companies. We're aware of it being pan-Niger Delta. But when you say localizing to the level of discussing whether each state should be responsible for its pipeline protection and surveillance, for now I would think that it will be a disservice to us, because in secondary school mathematics they will tell you that we should find the bearing of point A to B. I think of late, the NNPC and her partners, the private sector partners, have been able to develop corporate innovative strategy to make a departure from what has been into what we're getting today. If that is the case, I think it would be right, appropriate for us to allow the bearing that has just been found to run 5-10 years. Then we see if our ultimate target, which is to increase production, guarantee peaceful communities, reduce environmental degradation, recover our environment through cleanups and other variables, and get more of our youths into active and positive engagement. If that is taking roots now, I don't think discussing the issue of segmentizing it into states will be of any need at this point. And most importantly, pipeline surveillance is a very unique kind of thing that requires the deployment of some form of expertise, technology, and tools. And what if you reduce it to state level now, and those persons that you're trying to bring on board have not acquired the requisite technology and skills and experience of how to go about this? The companies that are seemingly succeeding now, that there's this increase in outputs, did not start in January last year, but it's because they've been able to find their bearing by innovative strategies that is now working. I don't think it's proper for us to say we want to dismiss how it's working. Let's allow the bearing to be properly found, and then we move from there.
All right, so with this now, I mean, I think I hear a bit of optimism from you. Do you think we can meet the target of about 2 million barrels per day production this year, 2025?
I think we will exceed that. Some of us are long-time dramatic personnel within the Niger Delta advocacy engagement spectrum. And what we have seen in the last 6 months across board, especially within the Trans-Niger Delta pipeline, is a significant level of cooperation. And once you have the people's cooperation, you have zero level of incidences, and then meeting the target of 2.06 million barrels per day, if I'm right, that is where I saw the budget being pegged. It's very visible, it's realistic, and it can even be exceeded. The only thing I will add is that there should be more of a conscious, deliberate effort, so that when there are incidences within the pipeline that are not necessarily as a consequence of vandalism, it should be responded to adequately and timely. Because sometimes we think that pipeline related issues and accidents are only product of vandalism. Tear and wear also happen. Natural incidences, push and pull by water, and all these things still occur. So if the companies, the NNPC and our partners who are involved in all these things are more up to date in their engagement, because definitely when there's an issue, there will be reduction in the pressure from their own ICT technology, though we are not experts in that, but we know that there are such availability. They will know it, they should also respond. But I think from the community level, the degree of awareness, consequent expansion of inclusivity is very significant, and Nigeria can get above that targets.
So another issue is the issue of pollution of water and land. What's the status now, and how do you think it can be effectively handled? Should the IOCs, international oil companies, handle it, or do you think perhaps the federal government should also look the way of localizing contracts around that?
The roots of advocacy in the Niger Delta was embedded in the environmental degradation that affected our aquatic life, that seemingly brought the activities of our environment to a standstill. Anything that will be necessary that can improve the environment, help us recover the environment, what in the layman language will environmental recovery, what in the layman language will be referred to as clean up of areas. I think as it stands now, that our local companies are demonstrating capacity in developing SIS, structurally implementable strategies in the surveillance contract. I think the issues of the clean up, reclaiming the environment, should also be localized. We should get pan-Niger Delta companies, local companies like they've done in the surveillance job, to also come into this clean up, so that we can also have a conversation with them, and then they will understand some of these things that is seemingly very difficult for the IOCs to understand. Personally, I think that if we bring in local companies to the clean up and the environmental recovery, it will be more efficient.
All right, so with all of this sentiment around and work going on, what do you see in the nearest future? Maybe by the end of this year, do we meet our target? 5 years, 10 years? What do you see for the Niger Delta?
I see two things. Number one, I see expansion of opportunities for Niger Delta people in terms of youth engagement, in terms of more availability of revenue for states to administer and develop critical infrastructures that are necessary for urbanization and development, to ease healthcare service delivery, to ease transportation, to ease every other thing that is needed to guarantee a better life for the Niger Delta people. Then on the other hand, I also see the benefit to the Nigerian states, because if the Niger Delta communities become more peaceful, becomes more engaging, the revenue to the Nigerian states becomes higher, and it means that the issues of more borrowing and all those things will be reduced. But as the Niger Delta, I wish that I could see a paradigm shift in the over-concentration of oil-related conversation about the Niger Delta. The Niger Delta, as it is today, has other capacities. Evidence in it is the media successes by Niger Deltans, banking successes by Niger Deltans. It means that the government of the Federal Republic should have conversation with Niger Delta people outside oil and gas. That is to say, if we can get back our aquatic life to function, if we can get back our boat building companies to function, if we can get back situations where we could have ICT hub, because we are very creative in the Niger Delta. We're the most unique people in this country. We have excess of manpower capacity. If there is a paradigm shift a little from just oil and gas conversation in the Niger Delta in the next 5-10 years, I see a change that will guarantee not just infrastructure development, but peace and tranquility in the Niger Delta region. And very importantly also, with this increase in production and all the other variables that are becoming stable, I wish to see that in the next 5-10 years, the Niger Delta waterways will become one of the decent waterways in at least in Africa. Because as it stands today, when you move from Ibro down to Ondo, all the waterways seemingly are so messed up. In other climates, in Liverpool and Netherlands and other places where waterways transportation and waterways life exist, they don't live in the kind of shanties, dirty and shambles we live in. I see a future where with this stability, this successful collaboration to help Niger Delta stabilize will guarantee that these waterways will be cleaned up, and then we will have a more decent life for ourselves and for our children and for the generation unborn.
All right, thank you so much, Secretary General of Niger Delta Intelligentsia Team, Mr. Nse Udo, for your views this morning.
Thank you.